On today's star-studded All-American Celebrity Brides Unveiled, bewitched child star Erin Murphy talks love and relationships.
When I was a little girl, I always thought that when I grew up, I would be a princess. I didn't really get that I had to marry a prince. I just assumed that I would be a princess and have a fairy tale wedding.
And calling occupants of interplanetary craft, it's astronaut Buzz Aldrin and his wife Lois on how they came to find love late in life.
There were folks that said to me, geez, you'll never be able to keep up with this gal. And some of my friends said to Lois, better be careful. You may not be able to keep up with Buzz.
When I was a little girl, I always thought that when I grew up, I would be a princess. I didn't really get that I had to marry a prince. I just assumed that I would be a princess and have a fairy tale wedding. You know, I liked boys as far back as I can remember. I remember being a really little girl and always liking boys. And I liked boys in books, like I liked Prince Charming. So I thought the perfect man was Prince Charming. I don't really know who my first boyfriend was. I know when I was little, sometimes boy actors would come on to Bewitched, and I would think they were my boyfriend for the day that they were there. So I suppose my first boyfriend as a little girl was the actor Johnny Whitaker, who was on an old TV program called Family Affair, and he came on an episode of Bewitched and played Jack and the Beanstalk. And I thought he was great. He was probably 5 years older than I was, and he took me out to lunch. I was 6, and he paid for lunch with a check, and I was very, very impressed. He was 10 and he had a checking account. I thought that was very cool. I don't know that being on television really affected my relationships growing up. I'm sure that everyone knew I was on television, but everybody was really nice about it. I don't know. I don't think people asked me out just because I was on TV. I thought they asked me out because I was cute. I think a lot of people grew up watching me on TV and they thought I was kind of the perfect girl next door. So I don't know. I think that's not too much to live up to. I kind of think I am the girl next door. So I think besides the magic part, I think I pretty much am my character. You know, I never really had a boyfriend who was a celebrity. I kissed a few celebrities, but I don't think they were my boyfriends. We moved away from Los Angeles when I was probably 12, so we lived down in Orange County. So, I mean, I dated, I don't know, surfers, because we lived by the beach. I met my husband on St. Patrick's Day, and I was actually doing a fundraiser with Elizabeth Montgomery's daughter. Elizabeth Montgomery had passed away, and she had donated all her clothing to a local AIDS charity. And we were organizing a big fashion show. So Elizabeth's daughter, Rebecca, and I were out at an Irish-themed restaurant on St. Patrick's Day, and next thing I know, this really, really handsome guy came around, and I thought he worked for a drink company because he and his friend came around with a tray of drinks, offering people drinks. But really, he was a stockbroker, and he just bought the tray of drinks and was out to meet people. It was definitely attraction at first sight. We kind of had a connection, and there was definitely a spark between us. And our first date was really, really romantic. We took a helicopter ride, and total surprise, he flew me over to Catalina Island. And I'd grown up in California, and I'd never been to Catalina Island. So it was just kind of one of those romantic, perfect dates. And I don't know, the relationship progressed there. I think we were pretty much in love by the end of our first date. I think the first thing I noticed about Darren was his sparkly, beautiful eyes. They're really pretty. They're like greenish, bluish, brownish. They're really beautiful eyes. I don't know. You know, sometimes you just look at someone and there's a connection and you don't feel it with everybody else in the room, and I don't know, it's still there, so that's a good thing. Well, actually, we'd met on St. Patrick's Day 1 year, and exactly 1 year later on St. Patrick's Day, my husband proposed to me, and he took me back to the very first place we'd ever kissed, which was the bridge that goes across at the Hotel Bel Air. It takes you across to the restaurant and the lounge there, and the very first time we kissed was on that bridge, and he brought me back to that same bridge, and he proposed to me, and it was very, very romantic. We both knew we were getting married. It was kind of one of those, it was destined to be things, and I was still surprised and happy, and I don't know, it was kind of a perfect moment. There were swans and water. It was beautiful and romantic and kind of out of a book. The funniest thing about our wedding is I didn't plan it at all. My husband planned our wedding, which may surprise a lot of people, but it was great. It was awesome. I planned absolutely nothing. He planned the entire wedding. My wedding to my husband was not my first wedding. So I'd had a big fairy tale wedding when I was younger and put all the effort into it and wore the Cinderella dress, and you know, it wasn't really that much fun. I dreamed about it. I thought I wanted the huge wedding. I had a huge wedding with harps and, you know, beautiful food and ice sculptures. I didn't get anything to eat. I was so busy being the bride and so overwhelmed with all the details, I didn't even enjoy anything. I don't even remember the cake. So I had the big wedding that everybody wants to have, and it wasn't really what I wanted after all. So my wedding to Darren turned out to be the perfect wedding. It was just the right size. He planned the entire thing. We flew on a helicopter back to Catalina Island, and we got married at this beautiful historic place called the Zane Grey Pueblo. And it was beautiful with the ocean and our family, and it was just romantic and perfect, and it was what a wedding should be for us. I think the biggest secret to keeping the romance alive is that you never really fall out of love with the person you're married to, that we always make time to have dates, and even though we have a big family, we still go out alone, and the kids could be swimming in the pool and we could be sitting next to the pool having a glass of wine, and I don't know, we're just still in love. We enjoy each other's company. I'd rather have him here than not have him here, and I don't know. We're just lucky. Well, since my husband's name is Darren, growing up his sister had teased him terribly and called him Durwood. And I don't know, he's kind of a laid-back, mellow guy. He's not overly impressed with television, but I think he was overly impressed with me, and that's all that matters.
Up next.
There is an advantage to marrying a man in the service, girls, because those uniforms are wonderful. I met the love of my life in 1985, October 1st. We're coming on to our 23rd anniversary of meeting. And I went to a party, and he went to a party. Neither one of us were going to go. And we met, and it was kind of a mixer. A friend of mine had asked all of her divorced friends to bring some handsome gentlemen, and good friends. We would kind of mix around.
She doesn't like describing the event as we met by accident, but it really was, because I probably wasn't going to be there, and she probably wasn't going to be there, but by accident, we both turned out to be in the same place.
I looked pretty good in those days, so he asked me out the next night, and I said, oh, no, you're not going to want to drive 60 miles south to Laguna Beach. And he said, why not? And I said, oh, and besides, I'm going to a black tie party, and I was going to go alone, and I just don't think it would work out. So he said, well, I'm going to take you to that party. Now, what time should I pick you up?
Turned out I was moving the next morning, finishing my moving to Laguna Beach the next morning.
And when he said he was moving to Laguna Beach, I could hardly believe it. So he picked me up, and he did not have a black tie, but he wore his uniform with all of his gorgeous medals. So we walked in the door, and of course, I sort of wanted to be discreet because I hadn't joined this club that was the opening night, and they said, well, we want you to come anyway. So it was not discreet because everyone turned around.
I never travel discreetly.
Everyone turned around, who is this? And I said, this is Buzz Aldrin. Oh, the cameras flashed and everybody was, and I thought, oh, because I wasn't that impressed. I mean, I knew he was an astronaut, but most of the friends that I went to Stanford with married a doctor, a lawyer, banker. Astronaut was not on my list. And a colonel in the Air Force, it just wasn't something I thought about. So, of course, he was the attention of the night, me along with him. And the pictures were in the paper the next day, and I thought, oh, well, this is a pretty impressive guy, I guess.
Well, this was a cute little chick from from Laguna Beach. And besides that, she had a nice family, upstanding family in Phoenix. When I went over there for Thanksgiving and explained to them a little bit about the space program, because they obviously wanted to know a little bit about that. I think both of our families have a carry-on from previous families that in some ways resents an establishment of something new and different. And that's a challenge that many divorced men and women need to deal with. And I think we've done that in a fairly reasonable way. I'm very proud of my son, who's a vice president with the Boeing company, and he and I talk the space business quite closely. But Lois has a very, very talented daughter who helps us out tremendously. And then we have other children that are doing their own in their own independent way, in differing ways where they need our help and need our attention and want to be somewhat independent. So they're really challenges that I think we are handling in a quite reasonable way.
Well, the interesting thing is, and most girls have their ideal Prince Charming man, husband, and he certainly did not fit into that category. As I say, most of my friends were married to ordinary
wealthy land developers, bankers, not living on Air Force retirement pay by any matter of means.
The thing about Buzz was that he did answer to all of my questions of being the right person, the right man, the one a girl. Most women are very romantic and idealistic, and men are too. They just don't speak it as well. Although I know it's in your heart. Where you really know that person has it's an attraction to you as an individual, as just your own heart. When a girl really falls in love with a man, there's nothing that you wouldn't do for him. And in the nature of men and women, I think that men enjoy that particular quality in a woman, and I don't think it's very easy to do unless you love your man, because it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. But I will say this about Buzz Aldrin: he's worth every second of my time, and I give him a lot of it.
I look back on my early life, and I was young, advanced for my age at West Point in the military, and I was a bit of an outsider in the test pilot world of the astronaut group, and I needed to kind of smooth over those being different and gaining a confidence level that I think we both share, that we probably lacked a little bit of self-confidence in our early years. and I went through this recovery process, and I'm just surprising myself at how much more capable and insightful I think I am, knowing what I think is needed and what I can do with the experience that I've gained. It does get a little frustrating from time, because I have to deal with other people that don't quite appreciate all these great merits. But I'm learning to be more tactful and diplomatic I hope, with people. And it's just turning into a really wonderful life of learning how to behave as a person sort of on a pedestal, hand in hand with a lovely lady. And we walk through the future in blissful happiness.
We do. The wedding day itself, I had to get a dress. I looked around, but we were, of course, a little older. I didn't want to look like the blushing teenage bride, but I happened to find a beautiful dress at Neiman Marcus, and it was a designer that I can't remember. It
wasn't your grandmother's dress?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was a lovely dress. It wasn't a wedding dress, but it was pearls and embroidery and cream, and it was just a beautiful dress that sort of a tight-fitting dress, and then it flowed out at the bottom, and these gorgeous sleeves that all embroidered in pearls and jewels and so forth on it. So it was a lovely, lovely dress, and it was on sale, so that was nice. And of course, it looked perfect with your uniform. There is an advantage to marrying a man in the service, girls, because those uniforms are wonderful. They make the man look just sensational. So we looked pretty good at the ceremony. Well, we decided to get married in Phoenix, Arizona, my family's town, because our bank office building was so lovely, and it was just beautiful. And that was my hometown. Now, a lot of people didn't travel. A lot of our friends from all over the world did not travel to the event. So we had mostly my long-term friends and family. We didn't really want a huge wedding, just our closest friends. So most of our closest friends from California, and that we'd had together.
It is surprising, though, as we circulate around, occasionally somebody comes up and says, "Oh, I was there at your engagement party
or
in Laguna Beach," or "Don't you remember? I was there at your wedding." Yeah, and we were otherwise thinking about things
like
each other rather than who else was there.
But there were some movie stars. They were sort of the older group, the ones that were living in Sedona and Miller. I was trying to think of some publishers, lots of press type people. And there was a friend of mine that later became famous, but actually I like him very much. His name was David Guest, and he now lives in London and is very popular there, as I understand. The astronauts, some of them still married to their first wives, rarely attended the weddings with the second wives.
It was not the most tasteful thing to do.
And so most astronauts did not come to second weddings. In fact, now I look at the whole group, and of course I always believed in one wedding, one family, my entire life. But that doesn't always work out. And if it doesn't, and it's not possible, as it didn't in our cases, nothing is more wonderful than meeting maybe even a better Prince Charming or a husband and wife than the first time. So it can work out second time around, as it has with us. People come up and ask me, how did it feel when Buzz was on the moon? I said, well, it probably felt like you felt, because we weren't married. I am the last wives club, not the first wives club. So I think that's a good club. If he's going in the wrong direction, perhaps I try to come in and give a little different side to it. And he does the same for me. If he sees that maybe I'm getting in deep, hot water, he'll come in and save the day. And also, I think we energize each other. And there's nothing like having an energetic force between you. It really works because it gives you energy yourself. And we both have that, and we have most of the it has grown through the years as our relationship has deepened and strengthened.
I think we both appreciate each other's families and our efforts to work closely with them whenever we can, and to exhibit more of a bonding than just the two of us, but it's trying to bond together in
our friends and family. Our combination is good because you did bring this wonderful stage and of the world to us, and all of our friends in England and France and around the world. People, Buzz brings a lot of friends. I bring a different kind of friend in, but between knowing the world, and many of them are strangers, and also bringing in some very close friends that we've made over the years, you feel like you have a great connection with the entire world, and it's very nice because our world needs to have better feelings. And I found as we travel through the world that we have brought a lot of people some inspiration and a feeling of having a good attitude towards life, and I'd say we've been pretty good ambassadors around the world, and it's very a good feeling to have that.
The one-night stand on the moon opened a lot of doors for me, and it's opened doors around the world for both of us with ongoing, enduring friendships, and that's really what it's all about, bringing people together and having them appreciate for the individual, not just for the event, but for the individual. And I think that's what we, as a combination, bring to so many people we encounter.
Next time on Celebrity Brides Unveiled.
I've married so many people in my dreams through the years since I've been a little girl. From probably, I think maybe John Taylor from Duran Duran, George Michael, Magnum, P.I. And obviously every wedding was just so magical, and there were tears, not only from me, but the whole of the congregation. And yes, I had a lot to live up to.
Plus, 70s songstress Patti Boulay gets tongue-tied when it comes to describing the love of her life.
I'm trying to find a word to describe my Stephen. He is, he is one of the best gifts God's ever given me.
All that and more on the next Celebrity Brides Unveiled.